Good morning. I'm Nancy, and I'm the owner operator of Metro Learning Solutions, which is a cognitive development center in the Des Moines, Iowa area. If you are like all parents today, you're worried about the health and education of your child during this extremely stressful time. There are many health experts to guide you with the health part of that aspect, but there are fewer resources to help if you have a child who is struggling academically. If you are somewhere on the path of considering an academic intervention, I want to share some things with you to consider that might be helpful to you. Not all interventions are created equal nor target the same issue. Tutoring and classroom interventions target information, the stuff that your child is supposed to learn in any given year. When a child lags behind, attempts are made to redeliver that information to the greatest extent possible, following best practices and getting all the guidelines in place to attempt to make that happen. Sounds good, right? And in some instances, that is exactly what the child needs. I'll talk more about that in just a bit. But there's also something that contrasts that. In contrast to providing extra exposure to information, many times kids need an ability boost to handle the information presented. A good program will focus on the root cause of the learning struggles. It should uncover any weak cognitive areas that are hindering academic performance. A good program should also be based on science and should have the research to back up any claims made. The intervention your child will receive at Metro Learning Solutions uncovers and then targets and develops any weak areas that are holding your child back from peak academic performance. The changes made in your child's learning ability are long lasting and make learning faster and easier and help with increased academic performance. But let's go back and talk about tutoring and school interventions. I mentioned that there may be a reason to go that route, and here are some reasons why. Is your child struggling because of missing classes due to illnesses or vacation? If so, that's an information gap, and tutoring is a good choice to narrow that gap. The second thing to consider is your child struggling because of moving to a more academically rigorous school district? Again, that's an information gap, and tutoring is a good choice to make up that gap. Is your child struggling because of an extensive absence by their primary teacher? Have they had a series of substitutes, for example? Tutoring will help with this information gap also. The last thing to maybe consider is, have they done, although this sometimes indicates a cognitive intervention is necessary and not a tutoring intervention, have they historically done quite well throughout their school years and all of a sudden hit a wall with a more advanced math class or a higher science class? While this may be an indication of a cognitive weakness, they may have been able to keep up through hard work and all of a sudden it's too much for them. You may want to start with a tutoring intervention first and see where that goes. However, now let's talk about the following scenarios that indicate a need for an evaluation and a cognitive intervention. The first thing to think about is, has your child already received some tutoring or classroom interventions, and is he or she still struggling or not getting most of the information presented? If that is the case, tutoring probably will not solve the problem long term. The second thing is your child struggling in more than one area or more than one class? This shows an issue with how they can handle incoming information and indicates that there is a better intervention to tutoring to address this. Number 3, does your child dislike reading? That's a common theme throughout, and a cognitive intervention is indicated. Does your child have trouble getting started with homework? Does he take a long time to complete it? Or are they struggling with remembering the steps to complete it? The last thing, oh no, not the last thing. I've got a couple more. Excuse me. Does your child historically do poorly in testing situations, particularly when you know they knew the information the night before and then didn't do well on the test? Does your child have to work harder and longer than peers to achieve good grades or even marginal grades? Does your child talk about their inadequacy as a learner? If you answered yes to any of those questions, these indicate that something else is going on that is negatively influencing your child's ability to read, remember, pay attention, and generally handle incoming information efficiently. Research has shown that tutoring, while possibly closing that information gap temporarily, does not address learning ability and these types of learning issues. So what can you do instead? You can seek a cognitive evaluation that will determine your child's cognitive ability to learn. That covers many things, but particularly memory, visual processing, processing speed, how quickly they can handle incoming information, auditory processing, and attention, among others. If any of these are weak, your child's ability to do well in school will be hampered. The good news is that all of these skills that must be strong to support learning can be identified, targeted, and strengthened. And then I want to read this to you. With advancements in research and new available training, accepting labels, settling for low learning potential, or simply compensating for learning problems is no longer necessary for today's students. We've made great strides in what we know we can do academically. Evaluations are available at Metro Learning Solutions, or you can call and get access to an anecdotal survey that you can fill out at home. This survey will give you additional information that will be helpful in determining whether the issue is an information one or a cognitive one. The in-house evaluation, which takes about an hour, will give you information regarding your child's learning strengths and weaknesses and is invaluable going forward. As always, if you have any questions about this topic, be sure to reach out to me. Again, my name is Nancy, and I can be reached at 515-523-0980.